possible, also because of COVID-19 upcoming, I also wanted to so I can learn from a professor far away from Los Angeles and, learn with my classes all over. And so miles apart, close I do think this distance kind of created this platform us to connect in a different way that is sometimes deeper as we think about it. Because, when people when a chat, it sometimes can get shallow. But welcome, our contestant number one. Could you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you saved me.
Thank you.
So, welcome, contestant number one. The stage is all yours.
Half a month ago, when I first got invited to this competition, I hesitated. Never in my most peculiar dreams have I ever visioned myself delivering a speech towards a piece of cold computer screen through which I can see no faces, hear no whispering, and receive no response nor reaction from the audience. That makes me really uncomfortable. Indeed, the COVID has shattered the world into separate segments and changed our lives fundamentally. Just as I cannot speak to you on an actual stage, many other things that we used to take for granted are now luxuries. A New Year's Eve countdown when thousands of people gather in a square, a beautiful, sunny day when families and friends hang around in a theme park, or even an ordinary class when students sit together. The sparkling fireworks, the scent of perfumes, the rubbing of shoulders, the chatter and laughter. But despite this change that separates us physically, another force seems to be further dividing us apart and setting the world on a more dangerous trajectory. That is the threat coming from narrow-mindedness and egocentrism. While the coronavirus has shown us how hard it is to survive in the world that is struck by the pandemic, it also amplifies some of our dangerous mindsets, which prioritize hatred over kindness, discrimination over tolerance, and self-interests over collective benefits. We see race as a centuries-old issue still generating conflicts in the world, where the black and white could both step backwards and work together to provide a discrimination-free future for posterity. Violent confrontation is still chosen over peaceful negotiation. We also see religion, which is supposed to offer redemption and a solution, is now becoming a source of violence. The past decade has witnessed a sharp increase in violent religious tensions, ranging from the Middle East Islamic power struggle between Sunni and Shia to the violence between Christians and Muslims across Africa. We also see ideology, which is nothing but beliefs in different political and economic systems, is now becoming a major criterion of countries selecting friends and enemies internationally, where conflicts could be solved by collective cooperation and therefore solved benefiting the entire human beings. We still complicate those issues simply because we don't look the same. It seems we're now living in a world that is dominated by division, while tolerance has become a scarce product. But as I know, and as you know, this shouldn't be the end of the story. Because for all our differences, there are all sorts of things that combine us together and reveal our common humanity. A universal longing to live a life that is free from fear and free from want, a life that is marked by dignity and respect and simple justice. This is what unites us together, and combined with a sense of tolerance and respect, we may conquer the divisions despite the thousands of miles that keep us apart. Now, make no mistake, I don't believe in a sudden change which miraculously solves every problem, nor do I envision a future that is free from racial, religious, or ideological conflicts. What I believe in is the power of individuals whose accumulation may transform the world into a better place. And this is already happening. The United Nations has reached this agreement, which is determined to address this pandemic through a global response based on unity, solidarity, and trusts among nations, generations, and peoples. China, through its Belt and Road Initiative, has developed a strong sense of ties with its neighboring countries in regional economic development, security enhancement, and environment protection. Those are positive signs of a more harmonious and peaceful world. And through this path, we can achieve a lot more than what division has to offer. And just remember, when hearts are combined together, even thousands of miles couldn't tear us apart. Thank you very much.
You talk about narrow-mindedness.
Sorry, we have the impromptu speech before. Thank you so much for lesson number one. The topics you picked were three, so you're gonna pick one of three. The first is we regret art that glorifies gaining fame and wealth at the cost of starting wars. The second is if you have no uterus, you are allowed no opinion on feelings of women. And third, interstellar bubble. Now you may begin your impromptu speech.
Thank you very much. I know it'll be a little bit strange for me as a male to talk about this subject, but here I am. The topic I choose is if you have no uterus, you're allowed no opinion on feelings of women. This is something that I cannot agree with more. Basically, the sentence means if you are not a woman, you do not have any right to comment on what a woman does or what choices she makes because you don't have the biological settings of that female. And this has been the common sense of the entire human beings for thousands of years, except in the field of sex. We always say you should put yourselves in someone else's shoes before you comment on what he does or what choices he makes, and because you have to know what that person's mindset is. But even so, you cannot fully say that you represent that person because you're not him. After all, you do not have the biological settings as that person does. This is something that we all understand as an entire species. But when it comes to the field of sex, something slightly changes over here. The common sense no longer apply because men like making choices for women in all kinds of fields and pretend that it's women's aspirations. We put women in last centuries and centuries before that in kitchens, pretending that they like to wash dishes or doing all kinds of household chores. We deny women the rights of certain occupations, such as writers, because we think that women are not responsible for such an occupation. And we deny the women's rights to vote because we think they're irrational and hysterical. Those are all presumptions made by men pretending that they have a uterus, they are women, they can understand everything the women think. But this is absolutely wrong. From the last century, from Virginia Woolf to in his famous book, A Room of One's Own, he said that I want a room of my own to make my own occupation, to make my living by writing things. And this is something that I should get from the outside world, from the men's world, from the patriarchy. This is something the women deserves. To the nowadays Judith Butler, she developed a theory called the performality. She said that women are forced to perform in nowadays society because as if they were pretending on a stage and the men out there are the audience. Those are the things that we have to take into consideration. Those are the theories that we need to take into consideration as an opposite sex, as men, to take into account that we are not actually men. We don't have a uterus. We do not have all kinds of biological settings as women do. This is something really essential in achieving a better understanding between the two sexes, in achieving a sense of respect between the two sexes. So as long as I believe that we all take this sentence, if you do not have a uterus, you are not allowed an opinion on women. As long as we all take this into account, I think the relationship between these two sexes can be more harmonious and better. This is what we all should be fighting for. Thank you very much.
Contestant number one, thank you for your speeches.
Thank you.
You talk about the fact that we're getting increasingly self-centered and narrow-minded, and you said we chose self-interest over collective benefits. And then, in your opinion, how can people, societies overcome, or at least become less self-centered, and go for the right collective benefits and be less narrow-minded?
Thank you very much. I think the key here is to have a sense of respect and tolerance. I'll take religion as an example. So we see a lot of religious wars back in the human history, and a lot of things, conflicts that happens in nowadays world. And those conflicts that are related to religion are not really necessary, since we know that in the ancient times, religions are always related to politics, which makes sense for different religions to fight each other because it's basically a fight between different nations. But nowadays, religion is not that closely connected with, let's say, politics or the power of nations. Then it's time for different religions to understand each other. And this has been happening in the history of China. In the traditional Chinese history, a standard scholar in Chinese history would combine all kinds of, let's say, religions, such as Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism into his own mind. And he resorts to different religions whenever he needs something else. That is the essence of the harmonious relationship between different religions, as well as between different individuals and countries in the world. We keep a sense of tolerance. We allow the existence of the others, and we, as long as, even though that we do not believe actually the existence of such a thing, we allow them to exist, and that's the essence of how we can live harmoniously together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, contestant number one, for your feminist speech. My question for your impromptu speech is, suppose you are a boss of a company and you want to hire a new employee. A man candidate fits the job and a woman candidate does not. What are you going to say to the woman?
Sorry, can you repeat your question? There's a little bit background noises. A woman...
You're a boss of a company. You want to hire an employee. One is male, the other is female. The male candidate fits the job, and the female candidate doesn't suit it. What are you going to say to the female candidate?
A female cannot... Sorry. Okay, I'll just continue with what I just heard. I assume that both the candidates can fit the job. I don't know. Well, if that's the case, if the female cannot fit the job, and then while the men can, well, I would have to say to that female that you did not get this job because you lack the essential ability to achieve this position. And for the record, I did not abandon you. I did not choose you because you are a female.
Sorry, everyone. Can I interrupt you for a sec? The question asked was, if the male fits for the job while the female candidate doesn't, what would you say to this female candidate if you were the boss?
While the female doesn't fit the job.
Yeah, I think that's what the judge means.
Okay, then if the male compared with the female fits the job more, then of course the male would be admitted into the company, while the female will not. But I will talk to the female in case that there's some kind of misunderstanding between his understanding of the company and of the career. So what I will tell her is, of course, you fit into the ability. You do not have the ability to fit into the occupation, and the man does. So that's why he gets the job. But I have to make it very clear that I do not abandon you because you are a female, because you have to, in the society's opinions, have all kinds of maternal leave and all kinds of things that make you feel you are inferior to that man in the position. That is not why I abandon you. That's not why the company choose to hire the man instead of you. I have to make it very clear between these relationships, between the male and female relationship. Thank you very much.
Okay, contestant number one, we apologize again for the internet glitches, and to all the other contestants, we will repeat the question if the internet connection isn't doing so well for you. Now let's welcome contestant number two. Sorry for the third question.
Good evening, Gilbert. My question is in reference to your impromptu speech. So you agree with the statement that if you have no uterus, you cannot have opinions on the feelings of women. Therefore, I would like to ask you if you would also agree with the statement that if you don't have a prostate gland, you are not allowed to have an opinion on men's feelings. Why or why not?
Yeah, of course. I agree with this statement because, of course, when I say that, when I proclaim this statement, I will be standing in the position of a woman. I will say that if you do not have the vital part, you do not have any right to comment on what a man does and what choices he makes. And this is essential to the relationship between male and female, especially in the society of nowadays China, because we see a lot of tensions between these two sexes. We see a lot of abuses and kind of stigmatization coming from each side, saying that the male doesn't understand the female and the female doesn't understand the male, and this has been happening like universally throughout the human history. So this is something that I think is very essential, that each person, each sex should have a sense of tolerance and respect. And just as what I said about harmony between different individuals and nations, we should have a sense of respect towards each other because we're not them. We're not the other individual. When it comes to different individuals, we cannot clearly say that I represent you, therefore I understand everything that you say. We cannot do that. We have to keep a sense of respect and keep a step aside from that person, give him room to make his own choices. And that's the essence of a harmonious relationship. And that is my answer to that question.
Thank you. You're done. All right, contestant number 1, thank you so very much. Now let's welcome contestant number 2.
Hello, everyone. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Now you may begin.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. My name is Alexandra. And before I start my speech, I'd like to ask you 3 simple questions. Please answer them truthfully to yourself. So, the first one. How far away are you from your hometown? Secondly, how long ago did you see your parents or grandparents? And finally, when did you call them last time? If your heart hasn't squeezed and you haven't felt a pang of conscience while pondering over these questions, you are a lucky one. As for me, I'm 3,000 kilometers away from my home. I haven't seen my grandparents since I was 15, and I often feel too busy to call those who are the most to me. Honestly, I feel awful about it. But let me tell you how my story begins. I was born in a very small town located near Yekaterinburg in Russia. When I was 10, my mom and I left our hometown in search of a better life. We moved to Kazan, and I went back every now and then to see my granddad and father. When I turned 18, I had to leave my mom to study at one of the best Russian universities in St. Petersburg. Now, when I have vigorous academic setting and snowed under with homework, I hardly have any time to see any of my family members. So, my granddad is 84 years old. There are 3,000 kilometers between us, and I try to call him to let him know that I love him and miss him before it's too late. I think many of you here have come across the same problem. Tickets are expensive, and you can't go home as often as you wish. What is more, coronavirus has separated many of us from our beloved ones. But it's so wonderful that the connection between people can still exist and distance can't break it. So we are studying and working, partying, meeting new people, and finally starting our own family. Life is a carousel that takes us eventually away from home. Enjoy the ride, but please remember, We are so busy growing up that we often forget that our grandparents and parents are also growing old. Our relatives are not around forever. Wait for another month to buy the brand new iPhone 11 and buy tickets to go home instead. Visit them. Take your children to show them. Talk to them. Hug them. Laugh with them. And let them tell you all the same old stories over and over again. And even miles apart, do not forget to make their lives happier with a simple phone call. They say families are like branches on a tree. We grow in different directions, yet our roots remain as one. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, contestant number 2. Now I will read the 3 impromptu topics for you. You will choose one from them. The first topic is college admissions should never take into consideration of race, family income, or gender. Second topic is we're from different worlds, yet somehow we fit together. Love is what binds us through fair or stormy weather. The third is live streaming. Now the stage is all yours.
Can I start?
You may begin now.
So today I will be discussing why college administrations should never take into account family income, race, or gender. So I want to give you 3 simple reasons why this should work, why education for everybody, for all, is so important these days. And the first reason is that it decreases criminality. You know, the US is famous for the everlasting disputes on Afro-American discrimination issues. And some people say that to decrease the criminal level in their country, they should build more schools and less prisons. And I think it's so true, because education gives people the understanding of moral standards, of norms, of standards of any kind. And that's why it's important to teach the poor, to teach those who have some restrictions. It's so important because it will finally bring peace to the society, to the community. Secondly, I think that universal education is important because it will bring prosperity. There are a lot of stories of people from rocky beginnings that achieved a lot and changed the world around them. Let's just let's take the case of Shakespeare, of Lomonosov from Russia, and of many great men and women. And I think that rocky beginning actually gives people the understanding of true life, of something that needed to be changed. And you know, I want to give you a story, probably you know, about Ray Kroc, who was a co-founder of McDonald's. So McDonald's originally was one cafe, and its founders didn't want to make it to have a lot of McDonald's across the America, because they thought the quality of their food that initially was very good, that it will actually become very bad. And it was so. when they organized their franchise and gave it to.
Sorry, Alexandra, the time is up. So thank you for that.
Okay, can I just finish?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So, Kroc created a theory that if he gives the franchise to poor people or people that not rich, it will work because they are very powerful, very aspiring, and it worked like this. And finally, I wanted to point out that universal education will outline the equality. Equality is a burning issue and very sensitive these days. And the UN, the United Nations organization, has is aimed at achieving sustainable goals, and the fifth one is gender equality. So I just want to say that education for all will finally bring peace, prosperity, and will satisfy the needs of our society today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number two, you seem to suggest in your prepared speech that we're growing further apart with our friends and families. But some would argue that, given the communications and transportation networks, the digital technology, actually, we're closer to each other than ever before. It's a matter of choice. Our best friends are at our fingertips. We can do distant learning more efficiently. Don't you agree? Don't you think so?
So if I understood you correctly, you want to say that the digital, like different mobile phones and all the stuff can today surpass or replace the real connection between people. So if it's,
please go ahead.
Okay. I think that, yeah, it's true to some extent because we have mobile phones, we have WhatsApp, WeChat, we have Facebook and everything that help us to connect faster and from different parts of the world. It's true. But, when we speak about older generations of the 20th century, to some of them, these mobile phones, is not the best choice. And anyway, the real meeting, the real being close to each other is so important, and it's so different from just talking through webcam. And I think it's important for family members to see each other, not just through camera, but, in real life.
Thank you.
Hello, Alexandra. My question is about your impromptu speech. You said you are studying in the best university in Russia, and I'm very curious, by what criteria, if not race, family income, or gender, your university select and admit prospective students?
Thank you. One of the best. We have a lot of good universities in Russia. So my university, well, let me think. It's actually hard for me to think of any restriction that my university can pose to somebody who wants to enroll to the university. We have a lot of girls on my faculty, so I think that's about gender equality. We have the same, we have equal opportunities, I think. Our university admissions, they try to reach out to foreign universities to to host them, and we have good programs that can help foreign students to feel free here, to feel comfortable in Russia. And I'm actually a member of such an organization that's it's called Erasmus Student Network. Probably you could hear about it. Yes, we have people from all nationalities in our university. I think it's just it works good because it doesn't pose any restrictions.
Good evening, contestant number 2. Thank you very much for your speeches. My question is in regards to your prepared speech. So, some health experts have suggested that during this special period, COVID-19, we should actually avoid physical contact with the elderly, including our grandparents who protect them. So, taking this into account, would you change your opinion that it's important that we visit physically our grandparents during this time?
Yes, I think it's true. Taking into account this special situation, we need just to wait. But it still doesn't mean that we don't want to see them, right? That we don't want to meet them. I wouldn't recommend to travel these days, but when everything is finished, I think many people will do this because distance is hard to it's hard for people.
Thank you very much, contestant number 2. A kind reminder for all the remaining contestants. Although we know you probably have pouring passion for the topic that you want to talk about, we do have time limits for each section. And if the time is exceeded too much, we will deduct the points. Now let's welcome contestant number 3. Could you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Now the stage is all yours.
All right. Presence. It is a word whose complexity is often overlooked. For example, just look around yourself. Where are you present and what is present around you? For example, you might be sitting on a chair, just like I am. There might be a desk in front of you, maybe a shelf behind you, and a wall to your left. Now, ask yourself the same question again, but this time, look into yourself instead of outside, around. Where are you present? Are you present mentally in the same place you are physically? Now, us humans all share this one superpower. It's called imagination. It allows us to do so many great things, and one of which is traveling to pretty much anywhere and beyond. Now, what you will find is that we often use the superpower, imagination, in precisely that way. Just think of all of the times that you have imagined that you were somewhere different to where you were in reality. Perhaps it was a cold morning, and all that was on your mind were a few more minutes in your warm bed. Or you might have tasted the same dish your grandmother made that one sunny spring day so many years ago, which took you back to a more carefree time. In fact, you might be imagining yourself in a park with your friends during this very speech. And I wouldn't blame you. Wherever you might imagine yourself, it often feels as if this imagined world, a creation of our hearts and minds, is stronger than reality itself. Due to the recent pandemic, a lot of our plans have been stifled. Many of us were unable to see friends and loved ones. However, that is not at all to say that they have been forgotten. Often, I find my thoughts drifting to friends and good times spent with them. Fortunately, the current definition of distance has been completely redefined by technology that allows us access
to those who we care about, no matter where they might be. Indeed, there is more to closeness than meets the eye, and it is not limited to a matter of physical reality. The power of human imagination has always been potent enough to overcome the barrier of distance, and technological advancements have further lessened its impact. To those that still claim out of sight, out of mind, I can only answer one sees clearly, only with the heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, contestant number 3. You picked 3 topics for the impromptu. Here are
Yes.
they. First one is imprisonment should be used only for those guilty of extreme violence. Second is although I cannot move and I have to speak through a computer, in my mind I'm free, by Stephen Hawking. And the third one is protectionism. You may choose one and begin your impromptu now.
All right. For my impromptu topic speech, I've chosen protectionism. Now, a little bit into why I've chosen protectionism. Protectionism is something very important to me since I intend to study international business, but I really do believe that it's something important to everyone. Now, why do I think that? Free trade and the idea of relative advantage has been the basis of modern economy for decades, for pretty much the better half of the 20th century, and you could say even for longer. And globalization has been an absolutely driving force both economically and societally. You walk into a store and you can see products from a very wide variety of countries, and once you buy your favorite products, perhaps an American soft drink, some Swiss chocolate, you go out into the street and see people of different nationalities, races, and so on, speaking a wide variety of languages. However, recently we have seen deglobalization, or the reverse of globalization, and with it protectionism. And at the forefront of this concerning new trend is the trade war between the US and China, a trade war between two absolute economic giants with blows traded on both sides. Now, the effects of protectionism and deglobalization are very many. It is clear, just as at looking how globalization and free trade has changed our world. And they are both negative and positive. Now, which of those there are more is a question that everyone must answer for themselves. But what could definitely be said is that freedom, the freedom of trade or lack thereof, dictates prices and have direct effects on the lives of millions of around the world. The trade wars and protectionism could definitely change prices and could definitely change the dynamics of both the world economy and national economies. And while some see this as a positive thing, due to the fact that it might return jobs and it could be a victory for national economies and for smaller businesses with the weakening of international corporations, there are definitely negative effects. Certain economic partnerships could collapse. Prices could, for things that we take for granted, could go up sharply.
Thank you, contestant number 3. Your time for the impromptu is up. Now ready for the questions.
All right.
Thank you, contestant number 3. You talked about imagination. But don't you
Yes.
think reality is more powerful than imagination? I mean, you can dream about, imagine about your dream school, but after all, you need to get this, TOEFL and GRE scores and application letters done. You can dream about, a workplace, but your office politics, hierarchies, seniorities. You can even imagine about the greatest love, but you need to be compatible in more ways than one. So don't you think reality is more powerful than imagination?
That is definitely true, and I do agree that reality definitely is powerful. But if you think about, for example, let's take your example of getting into a very good university, because it is very relevant to me. There is, I guess, no getting into a good university without dreaming about it. You simply will not have the motivation to do what is necessary to get into a good university if you haven't dreamt about it, if you don't have the imagination of if you don't have the wish to do it. And that comes from imagination. Practically any goal, any result that has been achieved that has had a huge impact has started as a dream. And while I do think that in the end it does become reality, and that is definitely very, very important. Everything starts as a dream, as a wish. It starts in our imagination, and that is why imagination is so powerful, because it could affect reality. It affect reality in so many different ways. That would be my answer to your question.
Thank you, contestant number 3. My question is about your impromptu speech. You mentioned about the trade war between China and the USA. Suppose that we can hold a virtual meeting inviting two presidents from two countries, President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping, and you are going to host the virtual meeting. What are you going to say to them?
It is very hard to it is definitely a complicated situation that I would be in. I would be in quite a predicament, because the current situation doesn't make it seem that the trade wars will stop. So I don't think that I would have the power to in any way affect their decision making about the trade war. And in fact, I would I guess call upon them to start dialogue, to kind of discuss the implications of what they're doing, because I do believe that the implications of that trade war are very, very large, and that they are splitting the world into interest spheres effectively. And I would ask them to think about what they're kind of doing with this trade war, because with the levels of protectionism that are constantly rising, we are stepping into very, very shaky territory, economically, which spills over to socially, of course. So I would call upon dialogue from both sides.
Thank you, contestant number 3. Very diplomatic answer there. I'm glad I wasn't that question, because I wouldn't have been able to hold myself back as well as you did. My question's a little bit lighter. The general gist of your prepared speech was that we should use the pandemic as an opportunity to look further within ourselves. So, with this opportunity now available to you, can you please share with us some insights into what you have learned about yourself during this period of time?
What I have learned about myself during this period of time. Well, I will really take a few seconds to reflect. I have learned some important things about myself during this pandemic. It has been a reflective period of time. I guess it makes you think about things that you otherwise wouldn't, with the sort of stimulation of the of everyday life. The stimulation of everyday life is quite powerful, because it kind of I guess it doesn't allow you to access some very large questions about your sort of happiness and what you really, I guess, are at core. What it definitely has helped me with is perhaps get into contact with friends that that I have lost over the last few months and perhaps even a year. It has been to get back into contact with them, to have meaningful conversations with my friends that would otherwise be would not be possible due to our kind of due to us being consumed by the stresses and of the everyday. And
Thank you so much, contestant number 3. It was really hard for me to call a stop, but your time is up.
Thank you.
oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Now let's welcome contestant number 4. Contestant number 4, could you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, wonderful.
Okay.
Now the stage is all
Okay.
yours.
Thanks a lot from the judge community from China, Delhi, and Confucius Institute. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Suresh Hamim from Afghanistan. I'm a hyper club. The topic or can you hear me? The name of the name of our competition is really related to our real life. As we know, the COVID situation, the COVID pandemic, made the situation to be miles apart from our parents, from our siblings, and from our friends. But our art was always close to each other. I would like to start with my topic. Friendship between humans, when it becomes real, occurs from the heart, and it does not know relation, culture, color, race, or language. That kind of friendship, even though it's far away of distances, but it's stronger and will never forgotten. Because we should all of the same minded and sympathize with each other and love each other as a family. Because we are humans and we are a big family. One race, we are a human race. And also, we should be tender-hearted and humble, and don't pay bad for bad. Don't retaliate with insults people insult us. Instead, pay them back with a blessing. This is what God has called we to do, and well, grant has it is the blessing, as he says. If you want to enjoy life and see many happiness, prevent your talk from speaking badly and your lips from telling lies. You have to turn away from evil and good, seek peace and work to maintain it side by side or miles away. True friends are always close to the heart. But then we have to, by accepting ourselves instead of creating problems, and by understanding ourselves instead of just trying, we can change the world, because we are agent of the change and we are the real change maker of this world. And borders or distance means nothing to us. And by following our art, we can make a bridge instead of walls, and we believe that we are strong. But when we come together, we will be stronger. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much, contestant number 4. The topics you picked are, first one, vaccine trials should be run only on animals and dying people. And the second is, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. And the third one, cultural heritage. Now you may pick one and begin your impromptu speech.
I would like to talk about the cultural heritage, because, as you know, my country is also we have a lot of cultural heritage, and I would like to also about the Europe's cultural heritage is rich and also diverse, massive, and cultural creative expressions. And also, I would like to talk about the really natural or something that can you hear me? And also, I would like to talk about the UNESCO and the rule of school and keep cultural heritage all around the world. We know the culture is a very important thing for humans because we gained from an other generation from other generation to this generation, and I would like to also talk about some cultural heritage that exists in Afghanistan, like our famous Buddhism in the Bamiyan provinces and in other in all over the world. By cultural heritage, we can recognize who we are and from where we came to this situation and to the this condition. And in my opinion, cultural heritage is the only most important existing thing in this world because we can know about what happened in the past and what we gained from them. Uh, uh, and also about the cultural heritage that cultural heritage individually enrich every culture, and it's something that we can recognize by them, and also uh, important resource of it's an important resource of economic and also offering the potential of urban and rural areas more sustainable tourism, and it includes natural, both and archaeological sites, museum, monuments, artwork, historical cities, literary music, audiovisual works, and the knowledge, practice, and tradition of different countries. It also belongs to the cultural heritages. The, and it's enrich life of every culture, every nations. Uh, and I think it's for me because so and in my opinion, one of the most important feature at the European level of UNESCO is to keeping the cultural heritages because this is very important to everybody in this world, and it's both on the efforts of the European Year of more. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but your time.
I think I have also. Yeah, because I have some network connection problems. Okay. Okay. Time for questions.
Hello, contestant number 4. Could you hear us?
Yeah, can you repeat it?
Could you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can't, right? Hello, contestant number 4.
Now I can hear you. Hello. I think I need to close again. Okay. Hello. Do you hear me?
Your voice is a bit too low. Would you raise your voice, please? We can't really hear you, but we can hear it a little bit.
Oh yes. Connections. Hello.
Can you
Now,
try
can you
again?
hear me?
Yeah. Your image is that great.
Okay.
Okay, contestant number 4, thank you. I'll be brief. You said relationship, you said friendship doesn't know color, religion, or race. But the reality is there are wars, conflicts, precisely because of or between people of different religious beliefs, race, and color of skin. Why do you think that is, and what can we do to stop it?
As I mentioned before, friendship when it becomes occur from the heart, it will not know or recognize. Does not mean when people from other religion is used from other culture or from other language, because if we know the real language of our heart, we can also remove all these problems. For example, when I was abroad with in different programs, I had a lot of friends from different religion, from different culture. But the main thing, when I accept them, when I trust them, it's all problem disappeared. And just we know each other as a friends, and maybe as a we were very close, because we believed in humanities, and we believe that we are from one race. We are a big family. The humans, that just borders divided people in different groups or different culture, and culture, especially about the culture made by people. And this is why this people from different this conflict exists in this world. But when we understand that we are a big family, and we are human race, and we are one race, we have same organs, we have same uh, identity, this all problems I believe will disappear. Can you hear me?
Thank you. Thank you. Contestant number 4. My question is about your impromptu speech. Suppose there's a fire broke out in a museum, and there's a cat in it too, and you retreat. In front of you, there's a very famous painting. You're going to rescue the cat or the painting. Why?
I'm sorry, your voice is very low. Can you repeat it?
Okay, no problem. Suppose there's a fire broke out in a museum, and there is a cat in it, and so do you. In front of you, there's a very famous painting. Are you going to rescue the cat or the painting? Why?
As you know, as I mentioned before, uh, cultural heritage is the most important thing for our in our life, in our maybe in our community. But you know, a life of human is more important than cultural heritages or something like this. Well, somebody, yeah, we have to rescue both ourselves and the painting, because the painting is more important. But when you don't exist, how we can just I think you mentioned cat or just painting. Can I can you repeat it? Sorry.
Or a painting, not human.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. A cat or painting.
Yeah. Okay, by the way, I have to talk about this. When there is something or maybe some animals in the museum, I'm trying at the first to turn down the fire, because when I turn the fire down, I can rescue maybe everything that there exists there in a museum. And the painting, I think. Can you hear me now? I have bad connection. Hello.
Yeah.
But you know, a life is more important than a painting, or I will try to firstly rescue a life of maybe animal or person, human, whatever. Then the cultural heritage, because that's also important, because we get it from another generation, and it's our identity, or maybe it's a very more important for our community, for our culture, and for our country.
Thank you so
Okay, thank you, contestant number 4. My question is also in regards to your statement about friendship. Um, Without the commonalities in terms of language, culture, or religion among the other elements that you mentioned, can you please suggest a practical starting point for two total opposites if they wanted to become friends?
You know, learning a language, as I mentioned before, I'm hyper polyglot. I love to learn language because I would like to make connection with different people, and I would like to teach them how humanity, how we can learn a language and how we can make friendship. I think learning a language, it's a very easy way for us. When you learn a language of other person, you can make a better connection with him or with her, and also he or she will trust you because you can also freely talk with you, ask a question, and also ask help from you. The best way to become to become very more to also support this friendship, we can we can make a language between each other, and also we can learn language of others. When you learn a language of other, you can make better, and you will understand that language is just a way, a communication way between you two, and
Thank you very much.
it's a bridge between each other.
All right, thank you so much, contestant number 4. Now let's welcome contestant number 5.
Thanks.
Hi, contestant number 5. Could you hear us?
I can hear you.
Nice. And the background. Great. Now you
Thank
may
you.
begin.
Thank you very much. Good evening, international juries, my fellow contestants, ladies and gentlemen. Joy MORAA, contestant number 5, and I will be sharing my thoughts on the topic miles apart, close at heart. When do we feel connected? I believe that that is a good place to start. I ask that question because on reading the topic at hand, which I found to be a quote, I noted that there were dozens of variations of the quote itself expressing different sentiments. Some were modified towards missing of family members, some were fashioned towards missing of pets, and some were fashioned for friendships. But all in all, a glance showed a clear connection between people, their loved ones, and things that they care about. Now, we often get asked the question, or the question ourselves, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? I have personally answered that question and given prediction based off of my life and my hopes and dreams. But I can tell you that there is probably a very high percentage that nobody got this answer right 5 or 10 years ago because no one quite saw we'd be right here where we are right now in the middle of a global pandemic. Not just one facing one region of the world, but facing the entire human race. So what has that meant for us? It has meant having to adapt to new laws and rules to keep us safe and healthy. It has meant having to leave and probably lose jobs that we have had for years. It has meant families being torn apart to keep each other safe. It has meant students being stranded in countries they're very unfamiliar with due to travel restrictions. And to some, it has meant loss. Tremendous and unexplainable loss. We get up, we wake up, we get ready for our jobs, we get ready for new situations, new challenges, new blows. And in all of that, at the core of it, we seem to be seeking out and yearning for security that can't quite be provided for by dogs or barbed wires. And in this seeking, we find ourselves forming bonds, connections, some stronger than others, but all in all connections. We start to value, to treasure, to love things, people and places. And this is so because human beings are wired to connect. But we notice that we are in quite abnormal times. We are forced to make do with the means that technology has created for us to connect, from video calls to regular phone calls, emails, and letters. Anything to maintain the connections, Let me give an example. Right now, we are holding a global virtual conference online, and there are thousands of us who are connected right here in this moment. And that is clear evidence of how, despite us being miles apart, we are very close at heart. Now, these times have shown us that however we are, however distant we get, and however long we go without seeing our families physically, we take comfort in knowing that we still treasure them, we still value them, and that shows that they are still close at heart. But it's not just the virus keeping us away from our loved ones, it's many other things. It's things like the wars that have kept families away from each other for months on end. It's the ideological differences we have. It's the fear of being unable to restore ties we have lost. It's so many things. But we would be lying to ourselves if we said that we are okay with being alone, having zero connections, being totally disconnected. And I call that a lie because we need each other to learn, to grow, and to appreciate more things in life. Now, there was a poem that was written to illustrate the need to have connections and relations. 100 slides.
All right.
Can you hear me?
I'm gonna read the impromptu topics that you picked. First one is laziness is an engine instead of a liability. Could you hear me?
Now I can hear you. The word overlapping.
Oh, okay. I'll repeat it again. The first one is laziness is an engine instead of a liability. The second is 志不求易，事不避难. Do not aim for the easy. Do not keep away from difficulty. And the third one is a challenge to all. Now you may pick one and begin your impromptu.
I will express my thoughts on the statement that laziness is an engine instead of a liability. I believe that most, if not all of us, have had the opportunity to get an education, to gain knowledge, and to grow as individuals. And the thing I remember most when I was growing up is being told to work hard. Work hard in school, work hard at home, essentially work hard in all you do. Those were my words. And at that time, it seemed quite redundant to hear that statement over and over again. But now where I am, I understand the importance of that information. The world is quite fast-paced, and we're expected to be at par with that. But we need to understand that in the hustles and bustles of life, we need to take time to rest. And for some reason, rest is deemed as trying to be or being lazy, and that is not fair. Because a significant number of innovations made available to man have been as a result of great inventors such as Thomas Edison, taking advantage of the laziness exhibited by people at the time. Sylvan Goldman is the inventor of shopping cart. And how many of you use shopping carts right now? He did not make this because it was the most superb thing to make at that time, but rather he noted that laziness was in people. Elevators were made by people who were tired of exerting effort when climbing stairs. All these things we see are evidence of some aspect of laziness. And lastly, the engine. It's a powerful and most probably the most important part of a car. However, if that engine has not been started, it is meaningless. But think on this. The fact that the engine is not being in use at that moment does not take away from the value and the purpose of that engine. If needed, it will be started and the car will move. So let us not be quick to exert criticism on individuals who are a little lazy, but also do not encourage them to be only that. Thank you. And before I leave you, thank you very much for listening for my speeches. But I appreciate everyone who has taken the time to be here, the organizers of One Belt, One Road competition. And I'm grateful to the founder of Global UNITALKS, Professor Wallace, for allowing me this chance to share what I have and for building me and instilling skills in me. I appreciate the international juries for taking the time to grace us with their presence today and for being here and enabling us to compete. I also thank the creative team of this organization. And lastly, I thank the global audience for being here and showing the support and love. Thank you so much for choosing me for this community, and I am forever grateful. Thank you.
There's a question and answer part as well. And the first question to you is, in your prepared speech, you talked about COVID-19 and the importance of connection. But in light of COVID-19, in fact, we see more hostility and division, more so than unity, especially among major powers. And we see more suspicion over connection in many parts of the world. So if you have the chance to advise policymakers of major countries, countries around the world, what would you tell them to bring more connection instead of more suspicion?
Thank you very much for your question. While we see that people right now are struggling a lot, and as you said, that there seems to be more contention than connection at this time. But if we take time to look at the root cause of these things, is that many people are struggling to find connection with their loved ones or their places. People are stranded in different countries. People are lacking things. People can't move. So when I would call global leaders, I would call them in and invite them to come to a space of evaluating what every specific area requires. Because you can't just generalize and say that everyone needs connection. We will focus and try to find out who are struggling most with trying to reach out to people and places and things that they value and try to create a way to bridge that gap. And if we can't do that, we find ways to facilitate and make life easier for them to sort of reduce the contention and encourage more connection. Thank you.
Hello, contestant number 5. My question is for your impromptu speech. Working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week is called 996 in China. And some business tycoons even claim that 996 is a blessing. What do you want to say to those business tycoons?
Kindly repeat your question.
In China called 996, which refers to working from 9 a.m. in the morning to 9 p.m. and 6 days a week. And some business tycoon in China even claimed that 996 is a blessing, especially for young people. What do you want to say to those business?
Thank you for your question. I take time to appreciate the fact that many countries have taken initiative to create time for their citizens to go to work. And in the example that you have given, I believe that it's a benefit because from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., it's ample time for individuals to exert their energy in the rightful places. They can still do it at night, yes, but we're analyzing and assessing where most people are most productive. So if the majority of the population, let's say in China, are mostly productive in this time frame, then it is best that they be accommodated at that time for them to be able to do more. And once they get home, they can be able to interact with their families or rest and prepare for the next day. So I believe that it's a good initiative that they have taken to have that time frame. It's not too early that they are still groggy, but it's not too late that they go home when they're completely exhausted. I believe it's the right amount of time given to them to do what exactly they need to do. Thank you.
Hello, contestant number 5. There is a certain entrepreneur here in China who would be very happy to have just heard your answer. Now I'll move on to my question. COVID-19 has changed our entire world and all of our lives. But are there any changes that have been made during the pandemic that you would like to keep once it has finished?
Thank you very much for your question. Now, to answer that, I will do an introspect of my country. We are quite populous. We're about 40 billion people. And in that, you'd find that along the streets, there's so many people. So something that has changed with regards to the new policies is that we have to maintain social distances and we have to keep up with the new health regulations, that is sanitization and wearing of masks. So something I would want to remain is one, social distancing, because I personally hate bumping with people along the streets. I would love to walk without having to bump with people. So I would love that. I would love that to stay, and I would love the health regulations to also remain because people are more careful about where they go, what they touch, and what they come into contact with. So those are the things I would love to stay after COVID has been declared gone. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 5. Now let's welcome contestant number 6. Hello, contestant number 6. Could you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Now you may begin.
Okay. On the 20th of July, 2014, the Ebola crisis that started in West Africa reached its most crucial turning point when Liberian diplomat Patrick Sawyer arrived in Lagos, Nigeria. Sawyer collapsed at the airport and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors suspected he had Ebola as he came from the epicenter of the outbreak and presented suspicious symptoms. While he was waiting for lab results, the Liberian government was pressuring the hospital to discharge Sawyer so he could attend a conference. Public health experts referred to this incident as the scariest moment during the entire outbreak. With a population of 21 million, Lagos is the most populous city in Africa. It is well connected to the rest of the world through sophisticated transportation. If Ebola were allowed to spread freely in this city, the world could face a catastrophe. At this defining moment for humanity, a hero came along and prevented a disaster. Dr. Amayo Adedevo, a name we should all remember. She insisted on quarantining Sawyer despite the threats she received from Liberian officials. She stood her ground as a doctor because she realized the danger her patient poses to society. Dr. Adedevo contracted Ebola while taking care of the patient. She died a few weeks later. But thanks to her, the situation was quickly contained in Nigeria. As a result, Ebola did not escape, and the world dodged a bullet. Dr. Adedevo's sacrifice served as the greatest wake-up call for the international community to take action. The episode in Nigeria triggered the WHO to declare a public health emergency of international concern. The world mobilized resources like never before. Doctors, soldiers, and medical supplies poured into West Africa. And then something magical happened. Cases were dropping sharply across the epicenter. More and more people started to recover. The Ebola crisis was eventually contained through collective efforts by the international community and West African people. 6 years have passed since the Ebola outbreak. Now the world is once again facing an unprecedented crisis. With an ongoing pandemic, we live in a time of uncertainty, but this is what gives us hope. When we choose to put aside our differences and come together, we can always find a solution. Pathogens recognize no boundaries, social status, or political interests. In a world where we're connected through advanced technology and transportation, our fate is deeply shared like never before in history. All international concerns have started at a local level. So next time, when you hear about wildfire on another continent or an outbreak in remote villages of Africa, ask not, why should I care? Ask instead, how can I help? Let us remember that it was because of heroes like Dr. Adedevo who gave their lives to become the shield that guarded the realms of men so we can be safe. Although thousands of miles apart, out of many, we are one. Even in darkness, there is a flame that never dies. I speak to you with a heart full of hope. Together, we can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 6. The topics that you picked are, first, all superheroes should come with an Achilles heel.
Can I sit down?
Doing practical work makes a country thrive, but empty talk leads it to astray. And the third, anti-intellectualism. Now you may pick one and begin your impromptu speech.
Yes. I choose number 1. Okay, so each year, Google would put out a short video to summarize the year in search. Last year, Google's theme was hero. So it started like this: in time of uncertainty, the world looks for heroes. So what makes a hero? A symbol, an inspiration, a light that guides us through the darkness. Can anyone become a hero? So I mean, I know that in this and in stories and in superhero movies, heroes are the ones with wings on their backs. But in reality, most people don't have wings on their backs. And I wanted to share with you the story of my family. 2 years ago, I had learned that my dad was diagnosed with lymphoma, and it really scared me. I didn't know what I was gonna do, and his illness triggered that I have. Sorry, it's like really emotional for me. I developed severe anxiety and depression disorder, but witnessing him being so brave and fight this illness gave me the strength to carry on. And eventually I've learned to become a better person, and I became stronger. My parents sacrificed everything to put me through college, to provide me with a better education, so that I can have a better chance to be successful in life. Although they don't have wings on their backs and they don't have Achilles' heel, they are my hero. And I think that's the truth for everyone. Heroes in real life are people like Dr. Adedevil, who stood her ground as a doctor to prevent disasters. Heroes are parents, are teachers, healthcare workers. They are the ones whose names we would never know. But they were the reason that we can stood taller and on their shoulders, and we can see further. So if you ask me, can anyone be a hero? I think the answer is clear. Absolutely. And on that note, I would like to end my speech with a quote from actress Viola Davis. Living a life for something bigger than yourself is a hero's journey. Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 6, for sharing with us some of your personal story. My question is about your prepared speech. You talk about successes in Africa when it comes to fighting Ebola. But look at COVID-19. There are hundreds of thousands of deaths, unfortunately, millions of infections. Mm-hmm. Why is it? Who would you blame? I mean, what is lacking in our fight against COVID-19 today?
Well, so first of all, from a public health perspective, Ebola and COVID-19, there are 2 different viruses, and they spread through different ways to spread. So COVID-19 actually is more contagious, a lot more contagious. And Ebola, although is very fatal, the fatality rate is very high. It only spreads through close contact. And so when you have a high fatality rate, people get alerted very fast. And plus, Ebola is actually not a new virus. It was first discovered in Zaire in 1976, now known as DRC. So first of all, it's very different in nature. But to going off on your question, I think what is very much lacking is that we're not taking this seriously. First of all, like when we first saw this virus coming up, we thought, it's tricking humans to believe that it's like just normal pneumonia. So the first few thousands of cases were perhaps misdiagnosed. And you see that like in all the pandemic or epidemics. And another thing is that right now we do live in a very interesting time. There's more than just a pandemic going on. There's economic recession, and there is protectionism, and there's like so many things. So I would say, like, the reason for that is very complicated, and but I do believe we will eventually get through this, as we human beings have been done for the past thousands of years. I firmly believe that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, contestant number 6. My question is for your impromptu speech. A very short one. Why do you think people need heroes?
So I think heroes are the ones that guide us through the darkness, and they are the light. I mean, that like when we're looking for something to look up to, heroes are there. Because I mean, this is essentially what made us human, right? I mean, for animals, they like they have the survival instinct. All they wanted to do was to survive. Everything they do is for survival. But for us, I mean, like what I said in my impromptu speech, heroes are the ones who live a life for something bigger than themselves, and it's actually against survival instinct. And I think this is what that's like the brightest part of humanity, because I mean we need heroes because so that we could advance, we could stand taller, we could see further, we could become better person. And yeah, just like I said, my parents are my hero, and I think everybody needs a hero in their life to to guide them through the darkness. And that would be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you again for sharing with us so many personal details of your life. Just then, in your previous answer, you also mentioned that your parents were your heroes, and that they sacrificed a lot to make sure that you had a better life and that you had more opportunities. But what I want to know is, have you had a chance in your life to be a hero yet? What is the most heroic act that you have made in your life so far?
Thank you. Yeah, so I said ordinary people can be heroes too. So actually, I mean, I do public speaking, and it is my skill, and it is what I'm really good at. So at school, I actually I have the public speaking club, and what I do is I try to inspire people, because especially when being a female leader who's very vocal, who likes to voice out about her opinions, you don't necessarily get liked for like what you're doing. And I see a lot of that actually throughout my college life. I see a lot of very strong women who are incredibly smart, but they're not confident enough to share their opinions. And I tried my best to inspire them. And I think one of the most heartwarming moment that I had was like I was talking to this girl for like 2 hours because she was feeling very insecure about herself. She like doesn't want she couldn't like get on stage, and she doesn't like know what to talk about. And I was like talking to her for about 2 hours, and I got to know her really well. And in the end, she told me that, wow, you truly inspire me. And I think that's like the most heartwarming moment. And in that moment, I think I became someone else's hero, because I mean, by inspiring the others, I mean,
thank you so much. That's the number 6. Thank you so much. And this is the concluding speech of today's competition. And I do want to grab this opportunity to kind of tell everyone what a night it has been. I think it's safe to say whatever could go wrong went wrong. If I were to kind of gauge my we have to really have to because we really want to stop why we really want those to actually make it stop. And again, I want to say we deeply thank our really dedicated judges and all the participants that we have across continents to make it happen. I think this is ultimately what makes this night very memorable. And now, as judges and staff complete scores, and before we announce the winners, we would like to invite the one to make some comments.
Thank you very much. Really pleased and also humbled to speak alongside many of my professors, teachers, and my fellow contestants who did better than me during the contests many years ago, over a decade ago. Also my new friend here. I think I want to congratulate China Daily 21st Century Club for hosting this event. It's not easy to bring together contestants from around the world, but I think by and large, this has been a very successful event. All contestants demonstrated that they have what it takes to be here. They have very different styles. Some contestants struck me as more genuine. They spoke from their heart. Apparently, they did not have gone through so much public speaking training previously, but they spoke it from their heart. They're very genuine. Some contestants are very skillful at making presentations. Their questions, their answers are pointed, and they're very skilled public speakers. So I would say that whatever the result may be, everyone walks away winner. It may sound like a cliche, but they are in more ways than one. So congratulations to the committee, the 21st Century Speaking Club, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful comments. Now let's take a little break before the final results come out.